The alarm started screaming before I even reached my desk. Not the soft tone that meant a trade ship had arrived late, or the medium pulse that meant a border dispute needed attention. This was the deep red alarm, the one that had only been used 4 times in the last 1,000 years. My name is Velthara, and on that morning I was the 3rd observer at the Kepler watch station. My job was to sit in a quiet room and watch the stars for anything strange. Most days nothing happened. That day, everything happened. I slid into my chair with 6 of my legs still tangled in my travel cloak. My eyes went to the main screen, and my 3 hearts nearly stopped at once. A ship had just come out of deep space travel at the edge of our neutral zone. A ship nobody recognized. I tapped my station controls with shaking claws. The computer confirmed what I was seeing. The vessel did not match any registered design, not from the Kresh warriors, not from the Almari traders, not from the deep clans of the Outer Rim. Nothing in our records, and our records went back 400,000 years. "Send a greeting," I said to my assistant, a young one named Cora. "Standard protocol, all languages." We sent the message. The ship did not answer. We sent it again. Still nothing. The ship just sat there at the edge of our space, dark and silent and wrong. "Run a scan," I told Cora. "Passive only, do not provoke it." The scan results came back in moments, and I felt my secondary heart skip a beat. The metal of the ship's outer body did not match any known alloy. The arrangement of the atoms was something our own scientists had only written about in theory papers. They had said it could exist. They had said nobody had ever built it. Until now, apparently. I leaned close to the screen. My breathing felt tight. The ship was not very large, maybe the size of a small trading vessel, but the energy signature coming off of it was impossible. It was like looking at a small candle that was giving off the heat of a star. "Observer," Cora said, her voice shaking. "They are broadcasting." The message came through in 17 different languages at once. All 17 were our languages. The message was short and clear. "Representatives of the gathered peoples, we are from Earth. We request formal contact." The word hit me like a cold wave. Earth. I knew that name. Every trained observer knew that name. It was a world that had been sealed off from the rest of the galaxy. A world our ancestors had marked as dangerous and walked away from. A world none of us were ever supposed to speak of, much less visit. My claws moved before my mind caught up. I pulled up the old file, the one marked with the ancient warning symbols. The text was faded and the language was old, but the meaning was clear enough to chill my blood. Earth, Sector 7, Grid G population, 1 dominant species. Classification, pack hunters. Special notes, endurance beyond reason, cooperation beyond reason, adaptation beyond reason. Recommendation, never return, never speak to them, never let them out. The file was dated 80,000 years ago. 80,000 years ago, when my own species was still learning to write. 80,000 years ago, when the ships of the old Watchers had visited Earth and found a species that frightened them so badly that they had sealed the entire solar system off and pretended it did not exist. And now that species was here, at my station, in a ship that made our best engineers look like children playing with sticks. I pressed the emergency button, not the small one, the big one, the one that sent an alert straight to the assembly on the Central World. The one that only worked 4 times before in recorded history, and every single time it had meant something terrible. The alert went out. I waited. The alarms around my station kept screaming. Then the replies started coming in. Fast. Faster than anything I had ever seen. Military channels lighting up from every corner of known space. Fleet commanders waking up to red messages on their screens. Ambassadors being pulled from their beds. Entire planets bracing for something they did not yet understand. Cora turned to me, her young face pale. "Observer, what is happening? Who are they?" I looked at the silent human ship on my screen. It had not moved. It had not fired. It had not even adjusted its position. It was just sitting there, patient as stone, waiting for us to answer. "They are a species," I said slowly, "that we tried to forget, and it seems they did not forget us." I opened the old file again and read the final paragraph. It was a warning from a Watcher commander 80,000 years dead. The translation came easily enough, but the meaning made my skin crawl. These creatures chase their food until the food simply stops living from tiredness. They mend from injuries that should end them. They work together in numbers that make no sense for a predator. They bury their dead and then they keep hunting. Do not let them leave their world. Do not teach them what we know. Do not give them a reason to remember us. I set down the file with trembling claws. 80,000 years. In that time, my own species had gone from simple tools to starships. We had built the great trading routes. We had solved illnesses that had once taken whole cities. We had mapped every star within 10,000 light years. How much had the humans done in 80,000 years? The answer was sitting in my sky, in a ship made of metal that should not exist. My communication panel lit up. It was the High Assembly itself. The voice on the other end was the speaker, an elder almari whose voice I had only ever heard in official broadcasts. Today her voice was shaking. "Observer Velthara, confirm your report. Is it truly them?" "Yes, speaker," I said. "The ship identifies itself as a craft from Earth. The broadcast matches no language pattern in our records, yet they speak our tongues with no accent I can detect. They have asked for formal contact. They have not shown any hostile action." The speaker was silent for a long time. I could hear other voices in the background, arguing, shouting. Someone was crying. "Do not engage them," the speaker finally said. "Do nothing. Send no reply, make no move. We are calling an emergency session. The entire galaxy is being asked to watch." The channel went quiet. I sat there staring at the screen. The human ship sat there too, calm as a sleeping child, its lights soft and steady. It was not threatening. It was not moving. But somehow, the longer I looked at it, the more I felt like I was a small creature standing in front of something much larger than me, something that had chosen to stand very still so it would not scare me. Cora came and stood beside me. "Observer," she whispered, "what do we do?" I thought about the old file. I thought about the Watchers who had returned from Earth all those years ago, their numbers cut down, their eyes full of stories they could not share. I thought about the warning they had left for us, and how we had laughed at it in some corners of the galaxy, calling it old superstition. And now here we were, watching that old superstition come true in real time. "We wait," I said quietly. "We watch, and we pray that we were wrong about them." Behind me, the alarms kept ringing. Across the galaxy, in halls and ships and palaces and homes, every thinking being with access to a screen was now looking at the same image I was looking at. A small, patient ship at the edge of neutral space. A ship from a world we had tried to forget. And somewhere inside that ship, humans were waiting. Waiting for us to answer. The emergency session started 4 hours later, and I was told to attend in person. That alone told me how serious things had become. Normally, I would have sent my reports through a secure channel and stayed at my post, but the speaker wanted every eye on the room. She wanted every voice heard. She wanted no space for excuses later. I boarded a fast transport and arrived at the central world within a single rotation. The assembly hall was already packed by the time I stepped inside. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of species filled the great circular chamber. I had never seen it so full. I had never seen it so loud either. The Kresh warrior delegate was on his feet, his thick arms slamming against his stand. His name was Turgan, and he was known for his temper. Today his temper had become a storm. "We strike now," he was roaring. "While they sit still, before they understand our movements, one ship, one target, we remove them before they can call for more." The Almari historian delegate stood up next. She was old, soft-spoken, and everyone went quiet when she rose. Her name was Ellerith, and she had read every file in the deep archives more than once. "You do not understand what you are suggesting," she said, her voice trembling. "You have not read what I have read. You have not seen what the old watchers described. If we fire on them, we will not remove them. We will invite them." "Then we invite them and we finish the matter," Turgan said. Ellerith closed her eyes. "No, you do not finish a matter with humans. Humans finish matters. That is what the old reports said. That is what the Watchers learned. When a human decides that something must be done, they do it. They do not stop. They do not tire. They do not give up. We cannot outlast them because nothing in this galaxy has ever been able to outlast them." The hall went silent. Turgan sat down slowly, his arms still tight with anger but his eyes now uncertain. The speaker stood up from her high seat. She looked tired, more tired than I had ever seen her. "We have opened the full file," she said. "The one that only the inner circle was ever permitted to read. The one that the old Watchers sealed with their final act of authority. I have read it. The Council has read it. And now all of you must read it too, because this is no longer a secret we can carry alone." The files appeared on the screens in front of every delegate. I opened mine with shaking claws. What I read made me forget how to breathe for a long moment. 80,000 years ago, a survey team of 200 Watchers had gone to Earth. Only 12 had come back. The other 188 had been lost, not in battles, not in accidents, but in a long, slow chase across 3 continents of the human world. The humans had tracked the Watchers for 2 full years. 2 years. Across deserts, across forests, across mountains and rivers. The Watchers had better tools, better weapons, better ships. It did not matter. The humans did not need better tools. They needed only their legs and their minds and each other. The humans would follow the Watchers during the hot parts of the day, when Watcher bodies struggled in the heat. They would rest at night and start again at dawn. They would split into groups and come at the Watchers from many directions. They would lose some of their own, and then they would bury them, and then they would keep coming. The Watchers tried everything. They tried hiding. The humans found them. They tried running. The humans kept pace. They tried negotiating. The humans listened politely, and then, once the Watchers had moved on in relief, the humans started following again. One of the Watcher reports described a moment I would never forget reading. A small Watcher group had made it to a high mountain, thinking the cold would stop the humans from following. They watched from a cave as a single human, a woman, climbed the mountain after them, wearing only animal skins, carrying only a simple spear. She climbed for 2 days without real rest. When she reached the top, she looked at the Watchers through the mouth of the cave. She did not attack them. She did not threaten them. She simply nodded at them, as if acknowledging that they had run a good chase. Then she turned around and climbed back down to tell the others where the Watchers were hiding. The 12 survivors had escaped only because their ship finally managed a repair and lifted them off the planet. The last thing they saw as they climbed into the sky was humans standing on hilltops across the landscape, watching them leave. Not cheering, not shouting, just watching, making sure the Watchers actually left. The Watchers had sealed the planet after that. They had placed a ring of silent satellites around the solar system to make sure nothing came in and nothing went out. They had marked Earth as forbidden in every official record. They had told future generations that the humans were too dangerous to contact, too strange to understand, too relentless to trust. And now those satellites had gone dark. Not failed, I realized. Disabled. The humans had been aware of them, possibly for centuries, and had been carefully and quietly taking them apart one by one. I closed the file with a trembling claw. Around me, the assembly was in chaos again. Some delegates were crying. Some were angry. Some were simply sitting in stunned silence, staring at nothing. A young delegate from a small sea world fainted at her stand and had to be carried out. The speaker raised her hands for quiet. It took a long time to come. "There is more," she said. "Our scientists have analyzed the new scans of the human ship. The results are not easy to share. The ship uses principles of travel that our own scientists had listed as impossible, not difficult, not dangerous, impossible, according to our own laws of physics. She paused, let that settle. This means, she said slowly, that in the 80,000 years we looked away from them, the humans did not simply catch up to us. They went somewhere else entirely. They found paths in reality that we never even suspected existed, and they did it alone on a single world without any help from any of us. A delegate called out, "How did they do it? How is such a thing possible for a single species?" Ellerith answered before the speaker could. Her voice was quiet. Because they had to, because they were alone. Because we left them alone on a world that fought them at every step, a world full of creatures that hunted them, illnesses that struck them down, weathers that tried to freeze or burn or drown them. And every single time they did not leave. They could not leave, so they learned, and they learned, and they kept learning. For 80,000 years they had nothing to do but learn. The room was silent. I thought about that. A world full of danger, a species that could not escape it. 80,000 years of pressure, pushing them forward, giving them no choice but to grow or end. And we had sealed them there. We had made sure they stayed in that school of hardship until they graduated from it. And now they were at our door. The speaker raised her hands again. The human ship has sent a second message. It was received during this session. I will now play it for all of you. The room went still. The message began. It was the same calm voice as before, speaking in our languages with no accent. We understand that our arrival may be difficult for you. We would like to share our intentions clearly. We wish to open trade with the gathered peoples of this galaxy. We wish to exchange knowledge, art, and culture. We have prepared a single envoy to meet with any authority you choose. Our envoy will come alone. Our envoy will come without weapons. We will send no military escort. We will make no demands. We only ask for a meeting. The message ended. The room did not move for several long moments. Then a low, soft voice spoke from the far side of the chamber. It was a delegate from a very old species, one of the few older than even the Almari. His name was Inthel, and he rarely spoke. "Do you understand what they are telling us?" he asked quietly. Nobody answered. Inthel went on. "They are telling us that they feel safe. They are telling us that one human, unarmed, with no escort, feels safe enough to stand in a room full of us. They are telling us that they have measured what we have, and what they have, and they have decided that one of them is enough to walk among us and come home again." Turgan spoke up, but his voice was no longer loud. "Maybe they are lying. Maybe it is a trick." "Maybe," Inthel said, "but consider this. If they are lying, they are still telling us what they want us to believe. They want us to believe that they do not fear us. They want us to know that they think themselves safe. Whether or not it is true, they are speaking to us the way a larger creature speaks to a smaller one, with patience, with kindness, with no need to show their strength because their strength is already understood." The speaker nodded slowly. "We will accept the meeting," she said. "We have no real choice. To refuse would be to insult them, and I do not think any of us wish to learn what happens when a species such as theirs feels insulted." She turned to the delegates. "Who among us will meet with the human envoy, who will carry our voice to this single unarmed stranger from a sealed world?" The hall fell silent again. Nobody raised a limb. Nobody stood up. Nobody even looked at the speaker. I felt my chest tighten. I understood why. Everyone in that room had just read the old file. Everyone in that room knew what humans had done to the Watchers. Nobody wanted to be the first to stand face to face with one. My claws moved before my mind caught up. I raised one leg. The speaker saw me. "Observer Velthara, you wish to volunteer." I swallowed. I found them. I was the one who saw the ship first. I think it is right that I be the one to meet them. If they are as terrible as the old reports say, then at least only one of us is at risk. And if they are not as terrible as we believe, then I will be the first to know it, and I can bring that news back to the rest of you. The speaker looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Very well," she said. "Prepare yourself, observer. You depart tomorrow. May the ancestors watch over you." I lowered my leg. My hearts were pounding. I had just volunteered to stand in a room with one of the most frightening creatures in the known galaxy. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a very small, very quiet voice asked me a question I did not want to answer. What if the old reports were wrong? What if we had been afraid of the wrong thing for 80,000 years? What if the true surprise was not what the humans would do to us, but what they might offer us, if we could finally be brave enough to listen? The meeting room was small on purpose. That had been my request. I did not want a grand hall with thousands watching. I did not want cameras or generals standing in the corners or guards pretending to be servants. I wanted a small space with 2 chairs, a low table, and nothing else. If this was the moment the galaxy met humanity, I wanted it to feel like 2 neighbors sitting down, not like a trial. The station staff had tried to argue with me. They wanted safety protocols. They wanted hidden weapons. They wanted 1,000 ways to stop the human if things went wrong. I told them no to all of it. If the old reports were right, no hidden weapon would save me. And if the old reports were wrong, I did not want to poison the first meeting with lies. So I sat in the small room, alone, waiting. My claws trembled against the edge of my chair. My breathing came fast. I tried to remember the calming exercises from my training, but they would not stick in my mind. The door opened, and the human walked in. She was smaller than I had pictured. I had read all the old Watcher reports, and those reports had described humans as tall, lean predators with sharp eyes and a steady walk. This human was tall for her kind, I could tell, but she was not big. She came up to about the height of my middle body. Her skin was a warm color, her hair was dark and tied back, and her eyes were bright and steady. She was also strangely smiling. I remembered the old warning. Humans show their teeth when they mean to threaten. I froze. But then I looked at her more carefully, and something about the smile did not match the warning. Her eyes were soft. Her shoulders were loose. Her hands were open at her sides. If this was a threat display, it was the gentlest one I had ever seen. "Hello," she said in my own language with no accent at all. "May I sit down?" I managed to nod. She walked to the chair across from me and sat, moving slowly and carefully, the way one would move around a small, frightened animal, which I realized I very much was at that moment. "My name is Hannah," she said. "I have been chosen to speak for Earth today. Thank you for meeting with me." "I am Velthera," I said. My voice came out thinner than I wanted. "I was the one who saw your ship first." Her face lit up. "Really? That must have been a strange day for you." I let out a shaky laugh. I had not expected to laugh today. "Yes, it was a very strange day. It is still a very strange day." "I imagine so," Hannah said. "I am sorry we surprised everyone. We spent a long time trying to figure out the best way to arrive. In the end, we decided that a direct approach was kindest. We did not want to sneak in and be found later. That felt dishonest." She reached into a small bag at her side. I tensed. She noticed, and her hand slowed down. "I am sorry," she said gently. "I should have told you. I brought tea. It is an earth drink. I thought you might like to share some with me while we talk. May I show you?" I nodded, my heart still pounding. She pulled out a small kettle, 2 cups, and a folded cloth. She set them on the table between us and poured warm amber liquid into both cups. The smell was unusual but not unpleasant, something like the tree flowers of my home world. "You do not have to drink it," she said, "but I wanted to offer." I looked at the cup, I looked at her, I looked at the cup again. Then I picked it up with one of my smaller claws and took a small sip. It was warm and a little bitter and a little sweet, and something in my chest loosened. I had not realized how tight I had been holding myself until that small, warm thing slid down my throat. "Thank you," I said quietly. Hannah smiled again, and this time the smile did not seem strange at all. "So," she said, settling back in her chair, "I expect you have many questions." Many, I agreed. May I start? Please. I took a breath. Where have you been? For 80,000 years, we thought you were still on your world. We sealed you there. We put silent watchers around your sun to make sure nothing went in or out. And now you arrive at our door in a ship that our best scientists say should not exist. How? What happened? Hannah was quiet for a moment. She picked up her own cup, took a sip, and set it down. We noticed the satellites, she said simply. About 400 of our years ago, our scientists were beginning to look at the stars with better tools, and they saw strange objects in the outer edges of our solar system. Objects that did not move like natural things. Objects that seemed to be watching us. I said quietly. It took us a long time to understand what we were seeing, she said. But when we did, we were not angry. We were at first just very curious. Who had put them there? Why were they watching us? Were they still watching us now? We sent out small probes of our own to study them. That was when we learned that the satellites were old, very old, and that they were designed to keep things inside our system from leaving and to keep things outside from coming in. And you felt what? Angry, betrayed. Hannah tilted her head. Some of us did at first, but most of us were, I think, thoughtful. We wondered what we had done to make the wider galaxy afraid of us. We wondered what kind of beings had decided we were too dangerous to meet. We looked at ourselves, at our history, at our nature, and we understood slowly that we must have seemed very strange to visitors who came from different paths of life. I leaned forward a little. You figured out that you frightened someone. Yes, she said. We looked at our own world, the animals we share it with, the way we hunt, the way we survive. We realized that by the standards of a peaceful galactic community, we were probably very odd, and rather than feel hurt, we decided to prepare. If we were ever going to meet our neighbors, we wanted to meet them well. We wanted to arrive with gifts, not demands. We wanted to arrive as guests, not strangers. Gifts, I said. Yes, we spent the last 400 years learning, building, inventing. We studied the satellites and learned from them. We built ships. We built better ships. We developed new ways of traveling through space, new ways of making energy, new ways of healing our own bodies and minds. We did not do this to prepare for a fight. We did it so that when we finally came out to meet you, we would have something worth sharing. I stared at her. You spent 400 years getting ready for this meeting. Yes. To bring us gifts. Yes. My cup trembled in my claws. I set it down before I spilled it. I do not understand, I said quietly. You could have come out angry. You could have come out seeking to make us pay for sealing you in. You could have come out demanding land or power or respect taken at the edge of a weapon. Instead, you came out with tea and a single envoy and a wish to share what you have learned. Why? Hannah was quiet for a long time. Her eyes looked somewhere far away, as if she were remembering something. Velthara, she said finally, may I tell you something about humans that most of the galaxy does not know? Please. We have a history, a long one. We have done many things that were not good. We fought each other for thousands of years over land and food and ideas. We hurt our own world before we learned to take care of it. We were not always the kind of people we wanted to be. She paused. But we were also alone, she said. For all our history, we had no neighbors, no friends among the stars, no one to look up at the night sky with us and say, yes, we see you, you are not alone. We grew up on a single world, fighting only ourselves, with only ourselves to blame when things went wrong. And over time, we learned something. We learned that the only way forward was together. We learned that the old ways, the fighting and the fearing, were a dead road. We chose a different path, not because we were forced to, but because we got tired of the other one. She looked at me with those steady eyes. When we found out we had been sealed away, we did not feel anger. We felt a kind of sadness, because we realized that the galaxy had met our younger selves, our frightened, hungry ancestors, and had judged us by what we were then. We understood because we had once judged each other the same way. We decided that the best answer was not to be angry. It was to show up, eventually, as the people we had become, not the people we had been. I did not know what to say. I sat in my chair, my tea cooling in front of me, looking at this small creature across from me who had explained to me, gently and without shame, the hardest story of her species. "What do you want?" I finally asked. "Truly, from us, from this meeting, from the galaxy." Hannah smiled softly. "Friends," she said. "We want friends. We want to trade stories. We want to learn what you know. We want to share what we know. We want to sit in rooms like this one and drink tea and talk with beings who are not human. We want to end our loneliness. That is all." "That is all," I repeated quietly. "That is all." I thought about the old reports. I thought about the watchers who had been chased across 3 continents. I thought about the sealed satellites and the warning that had been passed down for 80,000 years. I thought about the entire galaxy, at this very moment, sitting in fear and wondering what horror was about to be unleashed upon them. And here across a small table from me was the horror, a small woman with a warm cup of tea asking for friends. Before I could answer, my wrist device beeped. So did hers a moment later. We both looked down. "Excuse me," Hannah said. "It seems something is happening. Would you mind if I stepped out to take this call?" I nodded, my chest suddenly tight. "Please." She stood up and walked to the door, pulling a small device from her ear and speaking softly into it. Her tone did not change. Her face did not tense. She could have been answering a message from a friend. My own device showed me the alert, and my blood went cold. A Kresh warship, acting without permission from the assembly, had just entered the system and opened attack on the human vessel parked in neutral space. I stared at the screen in horror. A full attack, the kind of attack that would have broken any ship I had ever seen before. Hannah turned back to me, sliding her device back into her pocket. Her face was still calm. "I am sorry for the interruption," she said. "Would you like to come with me to the observation deck? I think you may want to see what happens next, and please do not be afraid. Nobody is going to be hurt." I stared at her. Then I slowly rose from my chair and followed her out of the room. Behind us, the tea sat on the table, still warm, waiting for our return. The observation deck had a wide curved window that looked out into the space just beyond the station. When we arrived, a crowd had already gathered. Delegates, scientists, station staff. Everyone who had access had come running to see the attack with their own eyes. Screens around the room showed close views of the action, fed from watcher drones in the area. The Kresh warship was enormous. I knew the name. It was called the Blood Tide, and its captain was a commander named Urkath, a known troublemaker who had been warned many times by the Assembly to stay in his assigned sector. Clearly, he had ignored those warnings one time too many. He had heard about the human ship, and he had decided on his own that he would be the one to end the threat before the Assembly could talk things to death. The Blood Tide had come out of fast travel at close range and opened up with everything it had. Plasma lances, heavy rockets, particle beams. The old reports said that a full salvo from a ship like that could break a small moon. I had seen training films of such attacks. The targets usually did not survive the first second. The human ship did survive the first second, and every second after that. I watched, my claws pressed against the window, as the full attack of the Blood Tide washed over the human vessel. And nothing happened. The plasma bolts reached the human ship and then simply stopped. They did not bounce off. They did not get absorbed into any shield that I could see. They just stopped, as if the space around the ship had gently asked them to please not continue. And then, and this was the part that made the scientists in the room cry out in shock, the plasma faded away. Not dispersed, not cooled, faded as if it had never been there. The rockets were next. They flew through space on trails of burning fuel, dozens of them, each one carrying enough power to break a city. They reached the invisible space around the human ship and stopped in the same strange way. Then they, too, faded. Gone. Erased. The particle beams did not even reach the ship. They slowed as they crossed the invisible line, stretched out into long, thin ribbons, and then unraveled into nothing. Around me, the scientists were shouting at each other. I could hear words like impossible and field theory and reality edit being thrown around. Nobody seemed to have any idea what they were looking at. One older scientist sat down on the floor and put his head in his hands. Hannah stood beside me, quiet, her hands folded in front of her, watching the view with the same calm face she had worn over tea. "How," I whispered to her, "what did you do?" She glanced at me. "We built something that we call a disarming field. It is hard to explain in simple words, but the short version is this. The field does not block attacks. It gently asks the matter and energy of the attack to return to a state where it was not weaponized. The plasma becomes just gas again. The rockets become just metal and fuel again. The beams become just light. Nothing is truly lost. Nothing is truly broken. The attack simply unhappens." I stared at her. "You built a machine," I said slowly, "that makes attacks unhappen." "Yes. That is not possible." "It is rare," she said gently. "It took us about 150 years to finish the first working version. It was hard, but it was worth it." Why build such a thing?" She looked at me, and her eyes were kind but also a little sad. "Because we did not want to build bigger weapons anymore. We had done that for too long on our own world. We had filled our oceans with them. We had pointed them at each other. We had scared ourselves almost to the point of ending everything we had built. And one day, a long time ago, we decided we were done with that road. We wanted to be able to protect ourselves without ending others. We wanted a way to say no to attack without answering it with more attack. So our scientists went to work. And after many lifetimes, they gave us this." The attack from the blood tide had stopped now. Its weapons banks were apparently empty or close to it. On the screens, I could see figures moving on the Kresh warship, rushing to reload, shouting orders, panicking. And then the human ship spoke. Its voice came clearly through every open channel in the system. It was a calm voice, a warm voice, and it spoke in the Kresh tongue as easily as it had spoken in my own. "Greetings, Commander Urkath and crew of the Blood Tide. Your attack has caused no harm. We ask that you please stop firing and return to your assigned patrol route. We have no wish to harm you. We only wish to speak with the gathered peoples of this galaxy, and your attack is making that more difficult. Please stand down." On the screen, I could see Urkath on the command deck of the Blood Tide, his face twisted with rage. He was shouting at his crew. He was ordering another full attack. He was screaming about pride and honor and not being defeated by strangers. His crew tried to obey. I could see them throwing themselves at their stations. Then the second thing happened, and it was somehow more amazing than the first. The Blood Tide's weapons simply went quiet. One by one, the lights on its weapon systems blinked from red to a soft blue. The plasma banks powered down. The rocket tubes sealed themselves shut. The particle beam generators slowly wound down to a gentle hum. On the command deck, Urkath was shouting at his console, hitting it with his heavy fists, trying to force it to fire again. Nothing happened. Then gently, one by one, the crew of the Blood Tide began to sit down. They did not fall down. They did not suffer. They simply stopped moving calmly, like people who had decided they were tired and needed a rest. Medical systems across the ship activated on their own and scanned each crew member, confirming that they were healthy and unharmed. They were simply asleep. Urkath was the last one to go. He was still shouting, still raging, still throwing orders at his silent ship. Then his eyes slowly closed, and he sat down gently in his captain's chair, his heavy head resting against the back. The Blood Tide drifted quietly in space. It did not respond to any commands from its now sleeping crew. It had, somehow, decided that it was finished fighting for the day. The observation deck was silent. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Then Hannah turned to me, and her voice was soft. "They will all be fine," she said. "They will wake up in a few hours. They will feel a little confused and maybe a little embarrassed. The ship will continue to answer only to peaceful commands for the next few days, after which it will return to normal. Nobody has been hurt. Nobody has been lost. The matter is closed. I could not speak. I tried. My mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out. One of the scientists near us, a young one with wide eyes, finally found her voice. You, she said to Hannah, you took over their ship. You put their entire crew to sleep from outside without touching anything. How? Hannah turned to her, patient and kind. The same way a doctor places a patient in a gentle sleep before a procedure, she said. The same way a parent sings a restless child to rest. It is a very old idea done with very new tools. We learned long ago that it is almost always better to calm a situation than to end it. So we built the tools to do that. The ships, the fields, the gentle touches from far away, all of it. But, the young scientist said, if you can do this to one of our strongest warships, you can do this to any of our ships. You could do this to our entire fleets. Hannah looked at her, and her expression was serious but not unkind. Yes, she said, we could. I will not lie to you about that. We could have, at any point in the last 100 years, reached out across the galaxy and put every weapon system on every ship to sleep for a very long time. We did not do that. We chose instead to stay home and keep working and one day arrive in peace. We want you to know that we could, and we want you to know that we will not, and we want you to know that we are telling you the truth about both of those things. The scientist sat down slowly, her face pale. I found my voice at last. Hannah, I said, the rest of the galaxy is watching this right now. Every ship, every station, every council. They have all just seen what your ship did to the blood tide. They have all just heard what you said. What happens now? Hannah thought about that for a moment. That, she said, is up to them and to you. We did not come here to demand anything. We did not come here to rule. We came here to offer and to ask. Anyone who wishes to talk with us, we will talk. Anyone who wishes to trade with us, we will trade. Anyone who wishes to learn from us, we will teach. Anyone who wishes to teach us, we will listen. And anyone who wishes to be left alone. She paused and gave me a small warm smile. We'll be left alone. We are very good at being left alone. We did it for 80,000 years. We can do it again. The speaker's voice came over the station's open channel then. The assembly had been watching everything live. Her voice was shaking, but it was also full of something I had not heard in it for a long time. Hope. Envoy Hannah of Earth, she said. On behalf of the assembly, I wish to formally apologize for the unprovoked attack by the blood tide. Commander Urkath was acting against orders, and he will face the consequences of his actions according to our laws. We also wish to formally welcome Earth as a sovereign member civilization of this galaxy. We invite you and your people to speak with us, trade with us, and share with us. We have much to learn from you, and we owe you a very long overdue debt of listening. Hannah bowed her head. It was a small, gentle movement. Thank you, Speaker, she said. We accept your welcome. We look forward to the long conversation ahead. The speaker's voice brightened. Is there anything we can offer you, Envoy, as a first gesture of welcome? Hannah thought for a moment. Then she looked at me and her eyes twinkled. Well, she said, Observer Velthara and I were sharing tea when we were interrupted. I think it would be lovely if we could go back and finish it. And after that, perhaps she could show me around your station if she has the time. I would love to meet more of your people, slowly, properly, the way new friends should meet. The speaker's laugh came through the channel, soft and surprised, and for the first time in a long while unafraid. Observer Velthara, the speaker said, I believe you have a guest to entertain. The galaxy will wait. Please show our new friend the best of what we have to offer. I turned to Hannah. My hearts were still pounding, but they were pounding with something new now, not fear, something closer to wonder. Come, I said, our tea is getting cold. Hannah smiled and followed me back down the hall, toward the small room with 2 chairs and a low table, where the first conversation between Earth and the rest of the galaxy was waiting to continue. Behind us, in every corner of the galaxy, beings of 1,000 kinds watched and thought and began, slowly, to change their minds. 1 year passed, and I came to walk on Earth myself. I had not expected that. A year ago, the thought of placing any of my claws on the surface of the human homeworld would have made me ill. Every story I had grown up with about Earth had been a warning. Every old report had been a list of reasons to stay away. And yet here I was, stepping out of a human transport craft onto the green grass of a place called Kent in the country called England, and feeling only a little fear and a great deal of curiosity. Hannah met me at the landing field. She was dressed in a simple cloth garment the color of summer, and she was carrying 2 cups of tea. It had become a small joke between us over the months of our friendship that tea was now a required part of any conversation we had. I think she knew how much that first cup had meant to me. I think she knew that it had been the first small safe place in a very scary day. "Welcome to Earth, Velthara," she said. "How was your journey?" "Strange," I said. "Your gravity is heavier than I expected. Your air has more moisture. Your colors are very bright." "All true," she said, smiling. "You get used to it." She led me down a small path between tall trees. I had seen trees before on many worlds, but these trees were different. They were old, and they had been allowed to grow in their own shapes without being forced. The wind moved their leaves, and the sound was like a soft song. I had not known trees could sing. "How is the network?" she asked as we walked. I thought about how to answer that. In the year since the first meeting, the galaxy had changed more than it had changed in the last 10,000 years put together. What had started as a single meeting between Hannah and me had grown into a new way of being. Humans did not build an empire. That was not what they wanted. Instead, they built what they called simply the network. It was not a government. It was not a trade federation. It was more like a friendly gathering, a place where any species that wished to share, to speak, to exchange, could come and be welcomed. Species joined because they wanted to, and they could leave whenever they wished. The only rule of the network was a simple one: be kind or be elsewhere. Over 300 species had joined already. Ships of every shape and size now moved along new trade routes that had been opened by human engineers. Medicines that had been thought impossible were now saving lives on worlds that had suffered for centuries. Art from 1,000 different species was being shared in public collections across the galaxy. Music that had only been heard on a single world was now being played on 1,000. The warriors like the Kresh had been the most surprising part of the change. Many had expected them to resist the new way. Instead, most of them had thrown themselves into it with the same passion they had once saved for battle. It turned out that, when you gave a warrior species something meaningful to do besides fighting, many of them took it up with real joy. Kresh now ran some of the most respected rescue fleets in the galaxy, pulling stranded ships out of danger in every corner of known space. Their old commander Urkath, after waking up from his sleep on the Blood Tide, had eventually become one of the loudest voices for the new order. He said he had been foolish, and that the galaxy had been foolish, and that he was not going to waste his remaining years being foolish any longer. His ship now carried medical supplies to border worlds, and he was said to be a very good captain of it. "The network is well," I told Hannah. "It grows every week. 3 new species joined this month alone. 2 of them had been at odds with each other for centuries. They met at a human art gathering and discovered they both loved the same kind of music. Now they are planning a joint festival." Hannah laughed. It was a warm, full laugh. "That is wonderful. Music does that. It finds the cracks between people and fills them in." We walked for a while in silence. The path opened up into a garden, and in the center of the garden was a small wooden bench. Hannah gestured to it, and we sat. She handed me my cup of tea. The garden was full of flowers I had never seen before. Some were small and yellow. Some were tall and purple. Some were wild roses growing on a twisted old wall. A small brown bird sat on a branch and looked at us with curious black eyes. It did not seem afraid. "Velthara," Hannah said softly, "I wanted to thank you for that first day, for saying yes to meeting me, for drinking the tea." I looked at her surprised. "Thank me?" I was terrified. I barely spoke. I nearly spilled the cup. "I know," she said. "And you still sat there, you still listened. You still asked the right questions. You still went out of your way to make that first meeting feel small and human. I had been preparing for that day for years. I had expected a big room full of stern officials. Instead, I got a small room and a nervous observer with kind eyes, and it was the best thing that could have happened to any of us. You set the tone, Velthara. You did that. I did not know what to say. I sipped my tea. I only did what seemed right, I said quietly. That is often the best someone can do, Hannah said, and it is often enough. A long moment passed. The bird on the branch began to sing. Its song was simple, a few notes repeated in a happy pattern, and somehow it made my chest feel full. Hannah, I said, may I ask you something I have wanted to ask for a long time? Of course. What do humans want, truly? I have asked this question many times in the last year, and I have received many answers from many different humans. Each of you gives me a different version. Some say exploration, some say learning, some say peace, some say art, some say each other. I have come to believe that none of you are lying, but I also cannot understand how a single species can want so many different things at the same time. Hannah was quiet for a long time. She watched the bird on the branch. She watched the wind move the leaves. She watched a small round insect crawl across her foot, and she did not brush it away. I think, she finally said, that the true answer is very small and very simple. I do not know if it will satisfy you. Please try. She turned to me. Her eyes were soft, and for a moment she looked very old, even though by human standards she was still fairly young. We want to matter, she said. That is all in the end. We want to matter to someone. We want what we do in our short lives to mean something to another being. We want to leave the galaxy a little kinder than we found it. We want to know, when we close our eyes for the last time, that someone will miss us. We want the universe to notice that we were here. I felt something warm behind my eyes. I had not expected to feel it. That is, I said slowly, a very simple wish. Yes. It is also, I said, a wish I recognize. My own people wish the same thing. Most of the species I have ever met wish the same thing, though few of them say it out loud. I think, Hannah said softly, that it may be the most universal wish of all. I think it may be the wish that all thinking beings share, no matter their shape, their world, their history. The wish to matter. The wish to not be alone. I thought about the 80,000 years of isolation. I thought about humans looking up at their night sky, knowing now that there were others out there, wondering why those others had chosen to hide from them. I thought about how that wish had pushed them forward across centuries to build the ships and the fields and the gentle tools that had finally let them arrive at our door. I thought about my own species, about how we had sealed Earth away because our ancestors had been frightened, about how that fear had nearly cost us something beautiful. Hannah, I said, I have something to tell you, something I have been holding for a long time. Yes. When I first saw your ship at the edge of neutral space, I was very afraid. I opened the old files and I read about what your ancestors had done to our watchers. I believed the old warnings. I believed that your kind was a thing to be feared. I volunteered to meet you in person because I thought I was offering myself as a possible loss to the galaxy. I thought I might not return from that meeting. Hannah's eyes were steady, listening. And then I met you, I said, and you poured me tea, and you spoke with me like a friend. And I learned slowly over weeks and months that the fear of your people that my people had carried for 80,000 years had been the wrong fear. We had been afraid of the wrong thing. What do you mean? I took a breath. We were afraid of your strength. We were afraid of your speed. We were afraid of your endurance, your adaptation, your cooperation. We read the reports of the old watchers and we said, these creatures are dangerous. Keep them away. Seal them in. Forget them. But all the while, the true thing to fear was not what your strength could do. It was what our absence had done. It was what your loneliness had done. It was how much poorer the galaxy had been for all those years without you in it. Hannah's eyes filled with something bright. Velthara. Hear me out. I wrote a final report last week. The speaker asked me to close the case on the Earth file now that contact has been long established. She asked me to summarize what we had learned. I wrote only one line. I would like to tell you what it said. Please. I looked at her. The galaxy was wrong to fear them, I said. We should have been afraid of a universe without them. Hannah did not speak for a long moment. Her eyes shone. Then she reached across the small space between us and rested her warm hand on the back of my claw, very gently, the way one would rest a hand on a small, fragile thing. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Velthara, thank you for that. We sat on the bench for a long time after that. The bird kept singing. The wind kept moving through the trees. The garden around us was quiet and alive, and it seemed to me that the whole earth was holding its breath for a moment, listening with us. Finally, Hannah spoke again, and her voice was light. Come on, she said. I want to show you something. She stood up and pulled me gently to my feet. We walked through the garden and down a small hill and out into an open field. The sun was setting, turning the sky into a long, soft stretch of orange and pink and purple. I had never seen a sunset on a planet before. I had seen them from orbit, from viewing windows, from recordings. This was different. On the ground, with the warm air on my skin and the grass brushing my legs, the sky felt very close. In the field, a group of humans were gathered. They were of different ages and different sizes and different colors. Some were standing. Some were sitting on blankets spread on the grass. Some were children, running in small circles, their laughter rising into the air like small bells. What is this? I asked. A picnic, Hannah said. It is an Earth tradition. You gather with friends and family in an open place. You share food and drink. You tell stories. You watch the sun go down together. My family does this every year on this date. I wanted you to come. Your family? Yes, my parents, my brother, my brother's wife. Their two small children, a few neighbors, and now also you. The group saw us approaching. They turned and waved, and the children came running up, their eyes wide. I was larger than they were. I had more legs than they had. My eyes were in different places than theirs, but they did not seem afraid. They seemed delighted. Are you the sky friend? The smallest child asked me, looking up with bright eyes. I beg your pardon, I said. Auntie Hannah said she was bringing her sky friend, the child explained seriously. She said you came from very far away. She said to be polite. Are you the sky friend? I looked at Hannah. She was smiling. Yes, I said to the child, and my voice was soft. I am the sky friend. Hooray, the child said, and then she hugged one of my legs and ran off to tell the other children. Hannah laughed. They have been excited all week. The older family members greeted me with warm hands and gentle words. A plate was brought. Food was offered. A blanket was cleared for me to sit on. An older human, Hannah's father, poured me a small cup of something sweet and cold. The sky turned a deeper shade of orange. Somewhere in the field, a human pulled out a small instrument and began to play. Other humans began to sing along softly, not because they were trained, but because they loved the song. I sat on the blanket, my legs folded under me, a plate of strange and wonderful food in front of me, surrounded by humans of a family I had never met before, on a world that my people had once tried to hide from for 80,000 years. The small child who had called me the sky friend came and sat in my lap, her warm, small body pressed against my chest, her eyes watching the sunset. I thought about the day I had first seen the human craft on my station screens. I thought about the alarms. I thought about the emergency session. I thought about my own heart's pounding as I had entered that small meeting room. And I thought about the words I would have told that frightened Velthara of a year ago, if I could have reached back through time to her. It is going to be all right. It is going to be better than all right. You are about to meet the best neighbors any galaxy could ever ask for. And when you do, you will understand that the universe has been kinder to you than you knew. The sun finished setting. The first stars came out. The small child in my lap fell asleep against me, warm and trusting and human. Hannah smiled at me across the blanket. Her family told old stories. The music played softly. Somewhere, somehow, the galaxy turned one more gentle step forward into its new, shared future. And I, Velthara, the sky friend, the third observer, the one who had first seen them coming, sat in the warm earth grass and finally understood what my final report had been trying to say. The galaxy had been afraid of the wrong thing for a very long time. And now, at last, we were not afraid at all. The end.